Frozen in Time by Jansen Davies. Chapter 1. The Call. The sun was a hammer in the sky, beating down on the cracked earth of the Arizona reservation with merciless rhythm. Heat shimmered off the asphalt like ghosts trying to escape. Officer Daniel Yazzie gripped the steering wheel of his battered 1972 Navajo tribal police cruiser, sweat tracing lines down his temples. The car had no air conditioning, no working shocks, and tires so bald they squealed of death every time he took a curve too fast. He was 37, divorced, and tired. Not just the kind of tired that came from long patrols and sleepless nights, but the kind that settled in the bones, the kind that made you wonder if the land itself was trying to forget you. "Chi," the dispatcher crackled through the radio. "Yazzie, you copy?" "Go ahead," Daniel replied, voice dry as the desert wind. "Got a call from the southern edge of your patrol zone. Civilians reporting strange occurrences." "Strange how?" "That's all they said. Just strange." Daniel sighed. 10-4. I'll check it out." He turned off the main road, tires crunching over gravel and sand. The landscape was a familiar tapestry of red rock, dry brush, and silence. But as he drove deeper into the southern edge, something shifted. The air grew still. The sun dimmed behind a veil of gray. And then, snow. It started as a whisper on the windshield, a single flake, then another, then a flurry. Daniel blinked. "What the hell?" He reached for the radio. "Chi, come in. I've got static." He adjusted the dial. Nothing, just a low hiss, like something breathing on the other end. The temperature dropped fast. His breath fogged the glass. Snow blanketed the desert in every direction, erasing the familiar contours of the land. The road disappeared beneath white silence. Daniel pulled over, heart thudding. He stepped out into the cold, his summer uniform useless against the chill. The wind bit at his skin. He popped the trunk, grabbed the emergency blanket, and wrapped it around his shoulders. Then he saw it. Suspended on an icy outcropping of rock, half shrouded in mist, was a ship. Not a plane, not a drone, a spaceship. Its hull shimmered with frost, icicles hanging from its rim like teeth. It hovered silently, impossibly still, as if frozen in the act of arriving. Daniel tried the radio again. Dead. He turned the key in the ignition. The engine coughed once, then died. The battery light blinked. He sat in the front seat, staring at the ship through the snow-covered windshield. His fingers trembled. His breath came in shallow bursts. He was alone. No backup, no signal, no way out. And the desert had become a tomb of ice. Chapter 2. White silence. Daniel Yazzie stood motionless, emergency blanket clutched around his shoulders like a shroud. The snow fell in slow spirals, soft and soundless, muffling the world into a dream. The desert, his desert, was gone. In its place, a frozen wasteland, alien and ancient. The spaceship loomed ahead, suspended on a jagged outcropping of rock, now glazed in ice. Its surface shimmered with a dull metallic sheen, etched with patterns that pulsed faintly beneath the frost. Icicles hung from its rim like stalactites in a cave, dripping slowly despite the cold. Daniel took a cautious step forward. The snow crunched beneath his boots, but the sound felt wrong, muted, distant, as if time itself had thickened. He reached for his sidearm. It was there, but it felt useless. What was he going to do? Arrest a spaceship? The cruiser behind him blinked its emergency lights in slow rhythm, red against white. He tried the radio again. Static. He tried the ignition. Dead. The cold was getting worse. His fingers ached. His breath came in clouds. He knew he couldn't survive long without shelter, but the only shelter was the ship. He hesitated. Something primal inside him screamed not to go near it, but something else, older, deeper, called him forward. He stepped closer. The air around the ship shimmered. A low hum vibrated through the ground, through his bones. The patterns on the hull shifted, rearranged, like a language trying to speak. Daniel reached out. The moment his fingers brushed the icy surface, the world fractured. A blinding light, a rush of wind, a sound like thunder underwater. Then silence. The snow stopped falling. The cruiser sat alone, lights still flashing. The desert was frozen, and Daniel Yazzie was gone. Chapter 3. Vanishing Point. The desert held its breath. Daniel Yazzie was nowhere to be seen. His cruiser sat idling in the snow, emergency lights blinking like a heartbeat. The red pulses cast long shadows across the frozen earth, illuminating nothing but silence. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just the impossible ship, hovering above the icy rock like a monument to something ancient and forgotten. Hours passed, then days. The snow remained. Dispatch tried to reach him. No response. A search party was sent. They found the cruiser exactly where the GPS said it would be, but the landscape had changed. The coordinates were correct, but the terrain was wrong. The desert had become a glacier. The search team reported headaches, nausea. One man claimed he saw Yazzie standing beside the ship, waving. But when they turned, he was gone. The cruiser's battery still had power. The engine wouldn't turn over, and the radio was dead. The emergency blanket lay folded on the passenger seat, untouched. Outside the ship, no entry point could be found, no seams, no doors, just a smooth, frozen hull that pulsed faintly when approached. The Navajo elders were consulted. They spoke of the Chi-Di, the shadow beings, of time as a circle, of places where the veil between worlds thinned. They warned the FBI not to interfere, but the government had other plans. 45 years later, the snow returned. Chapter 4. Echoes. Phoenix, Arizona. 45 years later. The heat was relentless, but inside the FBI field office, the air was cold with tension. Special Agent Walter Sterling stood at the briefing table, arms crossed, eyes narrowed at the satellite images projected on the wall. A desert. Then, white. "Taken yesterday," said the technician. "Southern edge of the Navajo reservation. Snowfall. In August." Sterling didn't blink. "What's the elevation?" "Low. No meteorological explanation. No storms. No cloud cover. Just snow." Sterling turned to his team. "Four-wheel drive. Snow chains. Arctic gear. We leave in 30. They drove north in silence, the desert stretching endlessly around them. But as they approached the coordinates, the world changed. The road vanished beneath ice. The air turned brittle. Snow coated the landscape like ash after a fire. Sterling stepped out of the SUV, boots crunching on frost. His breath fogged. The wind whispered. Ahead, perched on a jagged outcropping, was the ship. It hadn't aged, it hadn't moved, and beside it, half buried in snow, blinked the emergency lights of a 1972 Navajo police cruiser. Sterling approached slowly. The vehicle was intact. The battery still had power. The radio hissed static. Then he saw the body. It lay near the ship, curled in the snow. Humanoid, but wrong. Elongated limbs, translucent skin, eyes like polished obsidian. Sterling knelt. "Get me DNA." The results came fast, too fast. Daniel Yazzie. Sterling stared at the report. "This man disappeared in 1980. The medical examiner shook his head. "This isn't a man anymore." Sterling looked back at the ship. It pulsed faintly, like something breathing. He felt it then, a pressure in the air, a hum beneath the snow, a whisper in the wind. Something had returned. And it wasn't alone. Chapter 5. No footprints. The snow was pristine. Agent Walter Sterling crouched beside the body, his breath fogging in the frigid air. Around him, the desert lay buried beneath a thick white silence. No wind, no birds, no tracks, not even Yazzi's. Sterling stood and scanned the perimeter. Drone footage? Already up, said Agent Ramirez, adjusting her thermal goggles. Nothing. No movement. No heat signatures. No entry or exit points. Sterling turned to the cruiser. Its emergency lights still blinked, rhythmic and slow. The battery was active. The engine wouldn't start. The heater didn't work. The tires were half submerged in ice. "Vehicle records?" he asked. Ramirez handed him a tablet. Confirmed. Navajo Tribal Police. Assigned to Officer Daniel Yazzie. Reported missing August 1980. Case closed. Presumed dead. Sterling stared at the timestamp. 45 years ago. He walked back to the body. The skin was pale, almost translucent. The limbs were elongated, the eyes black and glassy. But the DNA was human. Navajo, Daniel Yazzie. The medical examiner shook his head. This isn't decomposition. It's transformation. Cellular structure's been rewritten. I've never seen anything like it. Sterling knelt beside the ship. Its surface pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat beneath ice. No seams, no doors, just a smooth metallic hull, etched with shifting patterns. He reached out. The air around it vibrated. "Sir," Ramirez said, voice tight, "you need to see this." Sterling followed her to the mobile command unit. On the screen, satellite footage from 24 hours ago. The same coordinates, dry desert, no snow, no ship. Then, at 3:17 a.m., a flash of light, a ripple, and the ship appeared. Sterling leaned in. "Play it again." The technician rewound. The flash, the ripple, the ship. No descent, no impact, just arrival. Sterling felt the weight of it then. Not just the mystery, the silence, the wrongness. Something had come through time, and it had brought Daniel Yazzie with it. Chapter 6. The Loop. The ship was moved under military escort. Sterling watched from the ridge as the convoy rolled out. Black SUVs, armored transports, a mobile containment unit wrapped in cryogenic shielding. The desert wind had returned, but the snow remained. It didn't melt. It didn't shift. It simply existed, like a memory refusing to fade. Back at the field lab, the scientists were already arguing. "It's not alien," said Dr. Eliza Carnes, astrophysicist and temporal theorist. "It's human, or it was. The design language is recursive, self-referencing. It's a closed system." Sterling raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" "Meaning it's caught in a loop. A temporal feedback cycle, like a song stuck on repeat. But the song is reality." Sterling turned to the holographic model of the ship. It pulsed slowly, rhythmically. "And Yazzie?" Carnes hesitated. He was inside the loop. For 45 years, but not linearly. He didn't age. He changed, evolved. The medical examiner entered, pale and shaken. "We ran the DNA again. It's positively Yazzie, but the genome is rewritten, not mutated. Rewritten, as if something was guiding the transformation." Sterling leaned forward. "Into what?" Carnes answered softly. "Into something else." The room fell silent. Sterling stared at the footage again. The flash, the ripple, the arrival. What triggered the loop? "We don't know," Carnes said, "but it's active. The ship is still pulsing, still folding time." Sterling felt it then, a pressure in his skull, a hum beneath his thoughts, the same sensation he'd felt near the ship. He turned to the team. I want full access. Every agency, every resource. We treat this as a national priority. Karnes nodded. We already are. Sterling looked out the window. The snow was falling again, but only inside the perimeter. Chapter 7. The Others. It started with the dreams. Agent Ramirez was the first. She woke in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, whispering words she didn't understand. Her voice recorder caught fragments. Frozen breath. The circle breaks. They are watching. Then came Agent Chandler. He claimed he saw Yazzie standing outside the containment tent, staring at the ship. But when Chandler approached, Yazzie vanished, leaving behind only a trail of melted snow. Sterling reviewed the footage. Nothing. No movement. No heat signature. Just the ship, pulsing faintly in the dark. The team grew restless. Watches stopped. Phones glitched. One agent forgot his own name for 10 minutes. Another began drawing symbols in his notebook, patterns that matched the etchings on the ship's hull. Sterling called in a psychologist. She lasted 2 hours before requesting extraction. There's something here, she said. Not physical, not mental, something ancient. The Navajo elders returned. They brought tobacco, prayers, and silence. One elder, a woman named Ashki, placed her hand on the snow and whispered. Sterling asked her what she felt. She looked at him with eyes like stone. The others are waking. Sterling didn't sleep that night. He sat in the command tent, staring at the ship through the frost-covered window. The snow fell in slow spirals, defying gravity. At 3:17 a.m., the same time the ship had first appeared, the wind stopped. The ship pulsed once, brighter than before. And Sterling heard it, a voice, not in his ears but in his bones. It spoke in Navajo. He didn't understand the words, but he felt their meaning. Time was not broken. It was listening. Chapter 8. The Artifact. The containment facility was buried beneath the desert, a concrete labyrinth designed for secrets too dangerous to name. The ship sat in its cryogenic cradle, pulsing faintly, like a heart refusing to die. Sterling stood before it, flanked by scientists, linguists, and military brass. The air was cold, not from the refrigeration, but from the ship itself. It radiated chill, a kind of temporal frost that made clocks run backward and memories blur. Dr. Karnes approached with a scanner. We found something. Sterling followed her to the observation deck. Inside the ship, visible only through quantum imaging, was a crystalline device. It hovered in the center of the chamber, suspended by nothing, rotating slowly. It's not mechanical, Karnes said. It's responsive. Sterling frowned. To what? To thought. They ran tests. The artifact pulsed when approached. It changed color when spoken to, but only Sterling triggered a full reaction. He stepped into the chamber. The air thickened. The walls shimmered. The artifact spun faster. Then images. Not on screens, not in his eyes, in his mind. He saw Yazzie, standing in the snow, entering the ship, touching the artifact. Then, fracture. Time bent. Yazzie screamed. His body shimmered, split, reformed. His skin turned translucent. His eyes darkened. He reached out and vanished. Sterling staggered back. The artifact dimmed. Karnes rushed in. What did you see? Sterling didn't answer. He stared at the ship, heart pounding. The transformation hadn't been accidental. It had been planned. Chapter 9. The Disappearance. The convoy never made it to the base. Sterling stood in the middle of the desert road, staring at the scorched circle where the containment transport had vanished. No wreckage, no debris, just a ring of melted snow and a faint hum in the air. The escort vehicles had reported a blinding flash, then static, Then nothing. Sterling reviewed the dash cam footage. One moment, the ship was secured in its cryogenic cradle. The next, white light. Silence. The ship was gone. The cruiser remained. Still blinking. Still cold. Sterling returned to the field lab. The scientists were shaken. Dr. Carnes paced the perimeter, muttering equations that didn't make sense. The artifact had vanished with the ship. So had the containment unit. So had the lead technician. Sterling stared at the empty chamber. We lost it. Carnes didn't look up. We didn't lose it. It left. Sterling frowned. How? She turned to him, eyes hollow. It folded. Not space, not time, something else, a dimension we don't have words for. Sterling felt the pressure again, the hum, the whisper. He walked outside. The snow was falling again, but only within the perimeter. Beyond it, the desert was dry and hot. He approached the cruiser. The emergency lights blinked once, then stopped. Inside, the radio crackled. Sterling leaned in. A voice. Faint. Familiar. Walter. He froze. It was Yazzie. Sterling grabbed the receiver. Daniel? Is that you? Static then. They're coming back. Sterling stared at the horizon. The snow thickened. The wind stopped. And the others opened their eyes. Chapter 10. The Return. The ship came back. No warning. No flash. No ripple. It simply reappeared, perched on the same icy outcropping, surrounded by the same impossible snow. The desert beyond remained untouched, hot and dry. But within the perimeter, time had folded again. Sterling stood at the edge of the frost line, watching the ship pulse faintly in the moonlight. It was different now. Open. A seam had formed along its hull, a doorway that hadn't existed before. Inside, darkness. Not the absence of light, but the presence of something deeper, something waiting. Sterling approached slowly. The air thickened. His breath slowed. The snow beneath his boots didn't crunch. It sighed. He stepped inside. The interior was vast, silent, and alive. The walls shimmered with memory, images flickering like candlelight. He saw Yazzie, young, determined, entering the ship, touching the artifact. Then, fracture. Sterling reached the center chamber. The crystalline device was gone. In its place, a Navajo police badge, Daniel Yazzie's. Sterling picked it up. It was warm. It pulsed once in his hand. Then the walls lit up. Symbols danced across the surface. Navajo, mathematical, alien. They converged into a single phrase, etched in light. Time is not a line. It is a breath. Sterling staggered back. The ship pulsed again. The doorway sealed. Outside, the snow began to melt. Sterling stood alone, clutching Yazzie's badge, heart pounding. The ship had returned, but it had left something behind. Chapter 11. The Rift. The rift shimmered like a wound in the air. Sterling stood at the edge of the perimeter, the desert behind him hot and dry, the snow before him untouched and eternal. The seam in reality pulsed faintly, visible only through quantum imaging, though Sterling didn't need the tech to feel it. The pressure in his skull, the hum beneath his thoughts, the way his memories flickered at the edges, it was all the same. Dr. Carnes approached, her voice low and reverent. It's not a portal. It's a memory, a place where time folds inward. Sterling didn't look away. And Yazzie? He crossed. Not physically, not spiritually, something in between. Sterling stepped closer. The air thickened. The snow sighed. He saw Yazzie again, just a glimpse, standing in the rift, ageless, watching. Sterling turned to Carnes. Prepare the chamber. I'm going back in. Chapter 12. The Crossing. The ship opened for him. Sterling entered alone, the doorway sealing behind him with a whisper. Inside, the walls shimmered with memory, images flickering like candlelight. He saw Yazzy's patrol, the snow, the transformation. He saw the others, not beings but echoes, witnesses. At the center of the chamber, the crystalline artifact hovered, pulsing with a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Sterling reached out. Time fractured. He saw Yazzy's final moments. The change, the transformation, the silence. Then, visions. A world healed, a future where humanity had evolved. Not through conquest, but through memory, through mercy, through stillness. Sterling stood in a field of stars. Yazzie was there. "You came," Yazzie said. Sterling nodded. "What is this?" "A breath," Yazzie replied. "Not a line, not a loop. A breath." Sterling felt it then. The others, not alien, not divine, human, future, past, memory incarnate. They had come not to invade, but to warn, and to offer a change. Sterling turned back toward the ship, toward the world he knew. "I'm not ready," he said. Yazzie smiled. "You are." Chapter 13. The Return. Sterling emerged from the ship just after dawn. The desert was still. The snow had begun to recede, melting in slow spirals that defied physics. The doorway behind him sealed with a whisper, leaving no trace of passage. But Sterling had changed. Not in body. His gait was steady, his voice still his own, but in presence. He carried something now, a silence that felt older than language. He walked past the stunned scientists, past the blinking monitors and the armed guards. No one spoke. They felt it too. Dr. Karnes met him at the edge of the perimeter. Her eyes were wide, her voice barely audible. "You were gone for 3 minutes." Sterling looked at the horizon. "I was gone for a lifetime." He handed her Yazzie's badge. It glowed faintly in her hand, warm despite the cold. "What did you see?" she asked. Sterling turned to the ship. A future. Not ours. Not yet. But possible. The ship pulsed once, brighter than before, then vanished. No flash, no ripple, just absence. The rift sealed. The snow melted. The others slept. The government classified everything. The footage, the data, even the snow. The official report cited a meteorological anomaly and a mass hallucination triggered by environmental toxins. Sterling didn't argue. He simply retired. But he didn't disappear. Chapter 14. The Legacy. Sterling returned to the reservation. The tribe gave him permission and he bought a small adobe house near the edge of the old perimeter, where the snow had once fallen and the ship had once hovered. He planted juniper and sage. He walked the land every morning, listening to the wind. He built a monument with his own hands, stone by stone, etched with symbols he'd seen inside the ship. At its center he placed Yazzie's badge beneath glass, not as a relic, as a promise. The inscription read, "Frozen in time, awakened in truth." People came, scientists, elders, children, some out of curiosity, some out of reverence, some because they dreamed of snow in the desert and didn't know why. Sterling spoke rarely, but when he did, he spoke of memory as a living thing, of time as breath, of silence as a language older than words. He taught the children to listen, to walk gently, to honor what cannot be explained. He never spoke of the others directly, but sometimes when the wind shifted, he would pause mid-sentence and look toward the horizon, as if waiting for something to return. Every year, on the anniversary of Yazzie's disappearance, the snow returned. Just for one day, it fell in spirals, soft, soundless, and then it was gone. The monument remained, and so did the silence. Epilogue. The others wait. The girl was 7. She wandered into the desert alone, drawn by something she couldn't name. Her grandmother had told her stories of snow in August, of a man who vanished, of a ship that sang without sound. She followed the wind. At the edge of the old perimeter, she found a seam in the air. It shimmered faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. She reached out. The snow began to fall, and the others opened their eyes, not to speak, not to judge, but to witness, because time was not a line, it was a step, and she had just taken her first. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.